What's happening, guys? Welcome to another edition of Malt Reviews. Today, we're doing Port Charlotte, Islay Barley, 2012, heavily peated. So this is Bruichladdich heavily peated whiskey, distilled, matured, and bottled, non-chill filtered, and coloring free at Bruichladdich Distillery. This is bottled at 50% ABV. We love. So, we recently did Bruichladdich Islay Barley 2012, which is unpeated. So, this vintage is the same 8 farms as the Bruichladdich. It is Island, Cruach, Starch Mill, Cool, Rockside, Dunlawson, Melindre, and Sunderland. This doesn't say like the Bruichladdich did, but from our best research, this is matured in 75% first fill American oak and 25% French oak. Pretty sure that's right. This is aged for 6 years, distilled, 2012, bottled, 2019. Coolest bottle. I love Port Charlotte's bottle. So, this has been breathing about 25 minutes. Shall we go to Islay? On the nose. Just beautiful, beautiful. I mean, if you love the regular entry-level Port Charlotte 10, you're gonna love these Islay Barleys. Something about the beautiful peat they use. Sometimes the Bruichladdich Islay Barley, the barley, the terroir-driven barley, can take away from the core distillate character that we love about Bruichladdich. Think the basic Ladi, maybe one of the first ones you've tried. But this, the peat, is the bridge between the influence of that terroir-driven 100% Islay barley from those 8 farms and it not getting away from its nature at all. This is beautiful. It does nose a little younger, the 6 years, versus, say, Port Charlotte 10. But it's just such high quality barley. It's almost like, not sure if it's not old enough that you can really distinguish the difference in the barley. It's a little more barley, cereal, oat, granola forward, but it's your typical beautiful Port Charlotte. It's oysters, lemon, brine. Maybe the biggest difference, you get a little less of that typical earthy farmyard, farmy peat. You know, it's kind of weird. It's like you can distinguish the barley, the malt in Port Charlotte is coastal. But separated out, the peat is farmy and earthy and dirt and dust, hay, grass. Very different. Butter, olive oil, brine, the coastal elements. Light sheep's wool. Not as much as Port Charlotte 10, but it's there. That farmy, earthy nature. Beautiful. I get the Islay Barley idea It's just, I wish they would do apples to apples. It's hard to compare. I wish they would do Port Charlotte 10, Port Charlotte Islay Barley 10 years old with a vintage, because the age, say the lack of age versus the 10, which we love, is really, really showing up here, taking over all the rest of it. So it's Port Charlotte. It's beautiful, but it's just less of it. It's 4 years old, less of it. It's not as refined, not as complex, not as distinguished as Port Charlotte 10, to me. It's a beautiful whiskey, but it's more like, you know what you miss. If I didn't know about Port Charlotte 10, I might appreciate it even more. Palate. Oh, yeah. Ooh. Young, but wow. I like this a lot better in the palate. Oh, yeah. It's a lot more Port Charlotte on the palate, but it's raw. Not too young. Raw, though. Raw power. These 6 years, the younger age, translates into a higher ABV. Not alcoholic at all, beautiful. A higher ABV, more like 55%. The notes are not as refined and mature as Port Charlotte 10, but they're much more there. The best characteristics of them versus versus the nose. Wow. Stronger olive oil, stronger brine. More of that farmyard earth. Probably the best thing about it on the palate is it's much less barley terroir driven and much more peat driven versus, say, the Bruick Lottie 2012 Islay Barley we did. It was just so disjointed, nose or palate, it never gelled and came together as one. This is much better on the palate. Light lemon, light pink grapefruit. Much better. Do some water. But I'm loving the raw power of this. Farmyard earth, wet dog, sheep's wool, hay. Okay. Swims well. So a couple drops of water on the nose. Opening up. Aging before our eyes. Yes, getting more refined. Closer to Port Charlotte 10, which is very good. Yes. Lemon, pink grapefruit, brinier, more olive oil, much more of that farmyard earthy funk. Again, much closer to everything we love about Port Charlotte 10, while still nosing a tad younger with water. Palate. Beautiful. Beautiful. Now, with water on the palate, the sweet barley came back, and now it's balancing more. Wow. Not bad. Still younger than Port Charlotte 10. You can taste it. You can nose it. But with water, very interesting. Balancing better. Much more of that oat, granola, sweet cereal. Just raw malted barley coming through palate. And the peat now is getting toned down a bit. So still, I would say a tiny bit disjointed versus Port Charlotte 10, but not nearly as much as Bruick Lottie Islay Barley 2012. So interesting. So overall, Port Charlotte Islay Barley, heavily peated, 2012, 6 years old. I think I'm going to go 84 out of 100. Just shows you how much we love the Port Charlotte 10 entry level. So again, guys, we're trying for new reviews every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. Please like, subscribe, comment. Tell us what your favorite Port Charlotte is, which Islay Barleys you've tried. I know it's relatively new to Port Charlotte, and many more to come. Cheers, guys.